All right.
Welcome, everyone in the kitchen. This is Jared Paul from the kitchen, along here with Jason Aspes and Mark Peifer from USA Pickleball. Tonight we'll be discussing all things rules, and we brought on the best guy to talk about rules here with Mark.
Mark Peifer, the chairman of the Rules Committee for USA Pickleball. Thank you for joining us. Let's just jump right in. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what your role is with USA Pickleball, and tell us a little bit how the rules work?
Sure. I'm dual-hatted. You've hit it both. I'm the chairman of the Rules Committee, but I'm also the director of officiating. So if there's a referee that players run into out there, they've all come through the referee training program that I'm responsible for, either training, development, or mentoring. But tonight's discussion is on the other responsibility I have as chairman of the Rules Committee. Last year, we had a couple of big changes that got a lot of attention. The drop serve was a brand new rule, and the let serve, which was eliminated, got a lot of attention. And then we also did the COVID serve that people now know is kind of the forerunner or what created, the chainsaw serve, right? Those three rules came into the game, and for a lot of folks, they were surprising to them, and they didn't know, well, how does this happen? So I got a lot of comments, a lot of feedback about the quote secrecy of the process. Well, it wasn't secret by intent. It was secret by behavior, past practice. We never really had opened up the rules process. I decided I was going to open up the process and had some discussions internal USA Pickleball and decided to go ahead and put in place the process that we see today, a process that anybody in the world basically could submit a rules suggestion idea or the revision to an existing rule. We also wanted to give everybody in the world, if they wanted to, the opportunity to comment on any rule suggestion that somebody else put in. So, Jared, if you put a rule suggestion in, it would go into this database, and then anybody that wanted to could go comment on that particular rule. So we wanted to have that. Then we wanted to have those comments observed by anybody. We also wanted to bring in an international component. We have our international partner, International Federation of Pickleball, had, their logo has been on the rule book for a number of years, but there's no IFP involvement. So I wanted to create an opportunity for the IFP to be involved with the rules change process. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Mark, let me ask you a question. Just taking a step back, why did you want to open it up to anyone to be able to submit a rule change? What was the reasoning behind that?
Probably the biggest reason is because USA Pickleball has this reputation on listening, and I wanted to listen. I wanted to knock down that barrier and use this as an example. Say we are listening. Not only are we listening, anybody can speak, and we'll listen. We'll have an opportunity to participate in the process. Now, we may have to curtail this because right now this is the first year as the word gets out. Oh, anybody in the world can do this. Well, right now, yeah, they didn't know anybody in the world because we collect everybody's USA Pickleball membership number. So there's an implied you've got to be a USA Pickleball member. But this year, anybody could do it. But you're right. You're right, Jared. That could create some problems.
And let me ask you about that rules change that you talked about with the chainsaw. And so because of COVID, it was that you didn't necessarily want to touch the ball that someone else had touched, so you could.
Yeah. So here's another example where we listened to the USA Pickleball members. They wanted to be able to continue to play pickleball during COVID, but they didn't necessarily want to have to touch the ball. Now, I won't get into the positives and negatives of that philosophy. That's not really why we changed it, but we wanted to listen. We wanted to do something. So we took a look at and found a very easy change we could make to the rules. And we had a rule that there could not be any double hits of the ball to the paddle. Well, we said, well, heck, what if we just change that, put a phrase in there and says no double hits after the serve. So we inserted the phrase after the serve, which now opened up. You could, lift the ball, pop it in the air, and then hit it again. So there's your double hit. lift it up, hit it up, then toss it in the air and then hit it. So there's your double hits. But that's before the serve, because the serve takes place at the point of contact of the ball with the paddle. And we declared victory. Said, hey, this is an easy solution. So now those who are concerned about touching the ball could go play pickleball without having to be concerned about germ transmission. So we declared victory, only to find out that there's this wonderful guy by the name of Zane Navratil that's very creative and innovative and made life miserable for us. So
before the rule went into effect, were you able to use two hands to
No.
You weren't. So it was always a one hand?
Well, before that rule went into effect, there was nothing that says you couldn't use two hands. You're right. You couldn't use the paddle.
Right.
Off the paddle. That's the quote COVID serve.
Okay. So that kind of prompted him to spin it off the face of the paddle.
Yeah.
Which generated a lot of spin.
Smart guy.
Right. And then some people have outlawed that, I guess, in some of the leagues. But the hand being not part of the paddle became the kind of leverage to create more spin.
Well, I think it goes to show you. So the PPA tour decided to not allow that chainsaw serve in the pro ranks, right?
Right.
So then Zane says, okay, well, I won't spin it off the paddle. I'll just spin it off my other hand. So he got around another loophole. He found another loophole with the rule that the PPA put in. And so it just shows you the creativeness that we have in players out there. They'll find a way to do what they think is kind of innovation in the game, and you have to applaud it. I mean, I do. I think it's great.
Yeah, I consider Zane a good friend in the space, and we had him on to talk about the chainsaw serve, and he came out to Austin, and we hung out, and he taught me the serve, and it's the only reason why I ever score any points. So, I find it so interesting that he innovated on the rule change, which wasn't intended for that. But I applaud him for his innovation, and
I think we all do. And I'll tell you, 20 years from now, we're all going to still be talking about this.
Yeah,
because it came out of nowhere. I mean, it's going to be part of the folklore of the sport forever now.
So while we're on the topic of serves, one of the big rules changes, or at least the recommendations that have gone to the board, was to eliminate two-handed tosses of the ball for service. And the rule now states one-handed. The way it was originally written in the proposal was no spin from that hand toss. But you guys removed that line from that, or someone removed the no spin generated from one hand. Is that correct?
So what you saw us do was try and listen to those who think there's a place for innovation in the game, but also still hold true to those parts historically that has led to the sport being as popular and as appealing as it is. So yes, we did take out, at least at our level, the USA Pickleball Rules Committee, we took out any spin with another part of any other part of the body, which takes out the paddle hand, and it takes out the paddle itself. So we left in the opportunity you could still spin it with one hand, and of course that made Morgan Evans very happy, right? So when I had my discussion with him, I listened to him very carefully. I think he had a post on Facebook. I think it was very well read, very well written, by the way, and very well read by a lot of folks, including, as far as I know, all of the members of the Rules Committee.
Yeah.
So basically what we did is we went back to the way the rule was written before COVID, and that would allow for there to be the single-handed spin.
Okay, and the one other thing that you guys did add in was that the toss had to be in the line of sight to your opponent and to the referee if there is one. Is that correct?
Right. And quite frankly, we picked that up. Some of us picked that up by watching videos of some of the folks we've already talked about here. And another person in particular who literally had their back to the opponents and then spun around and turned at the same time they were spinning the ball. And you could clearly see there was an unfairness factor there because, if you have a chance to be able to return this serve, it's to be able to read the spin on the ball, right? I mean, I think they're pretty clear. If you can read the spin on the ball, you should be able to predict maybe where the ball is going to go when it hits. So that kind of created a problem we thought was unfair. So yes, we said that release of the ball must be visible to the opponents and to the referee, if there is one.
Is it seen by the rules committee that there is an advantage to serving? I mean, I think particularly when you start out, you in your mind you think, should I take the first serve if I win the toss, or should I not? Where does the advantage lie? Obviously, you can only get points when you serve, but you're going to get 2 on the second if you're the receiving team, and only 1 if you're the serving team. Does the rules committee view having an advantage in either one of those instances?
Well, no, we don't. We don't get to that level of detail, but we do talk about is the serve creating too much of an advantage, and that led right into the whole spin serve discussion, as you can imagine. So, right. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jared.
No, I was just curious about the origins of the sport. How much do those play a role in the evolution of the rules, even as it stands today?
Oh, sure does. And not only what rules we write, but also what rules get approved. Mm-hmm. I've just put together kind of a philosophy on rule writing and rule approving that I've shared with the board, because this question that you just asked here comes up quite frequently. And I've shared a little bit of it earlier when I said that we want to create rules that recognize the sport should be progressing. It should be innovating, right? But we also want to respect the fact that the reason we're here, the reason why this sport is so attractive and has such a strong appeal, is because of the rules that have been in place now, most of them since 1965. So we're trying to maintain that balance, and it's really tough sometimes because there's some young guys like you that want to go, hey, come on, we got to get this thing going. Come on, this is fun. Let's do this thing. So, and that's where we run into the folks like you that are young and vibrant and athletic who really.
I love that you keep calling me young.
But you want to take it to quote the next level. But then we also have the rec player, the social player that we have to keep in mind when we write rules and approve them.
Yeah, well, I for one, on the spin stuff, I think you guys have made a pretty nice compromise, and it allows for a craft to be, a skill to be crafted. It takes work. It's not easy. When I show people what I'm doing, the first thing they do is they try to flick it, and it goes off into the corner, and they run after it, and 20 seconds later they're back. And
right.
I always explain, like, it's going to take some time. Don't try it now.
Yeah.
So I think you made a good rule on that one.
Well, we'll see what the board does with it. There's, the board is no different than the player population. It's a cross section of players. Almost all the board members play pickleball quite extensively. And I said 4 of them are referees, so they're out there. They see this firsthand. So we'll see how they go with this.
Do you play often, Mark?
I play often enough, not as much as I'd like to. How's that for an answer?
I think that's the answer of every pickleball player.
Yeah.
One of the rules that you guys were voting on that did not pass was rally scoring, which I think was a pretty controversial hot topic. And I think the reason why, one, maybe for simplicity, it also made the games go a little quicker. But I think that as the pro game moves into broadcast, rally scoring would make it easier to estimate how long a game would take, easier than the way that scoring is now. Was there any thought to adapting that for those reasons?
I think rally scoring is probably in our future at some point. When, I don't know. But right now, there isn't a real strong, compelling reason to do it. And until we get a real strong, compelling reason, I don't see it happening. in this write-up I told you about, that's going to explain the kind of the underlying philosophy of rule writing. We talk about rule priorities. The first priority of any rule that we actually bring into the process, does it maintain the integrity of the game? The second thing, does it make it easier for players to play or learn the game? And the third priority is, does it improve the relationship between the officials and the players? Does it create or resolve conflict, that particular rule? And rally scoring doesn't fit any one of those three priorities. So at least not now. Now there may be other reasons to write a rule for rally scoring, but here's what I think. And I'm not trying to predict anything with any degree of certainty, but this is the kind of an approach that makes sense to me, and I've shared this within the rules committee. And in at least one case with a board member, that it might make sense to do this as a demonstration with singles, and do it and allow the tournament director to offer a rally scoring singles demonstration bracket. And then you could bring it in doubles as a demonstration the next year. And then you could kind of phase it in over time rather than just say, okay, everybody go, January 1st.
Yeah,
I've never finished my answer to you, Jason, about the timeline here. So
yeah.
October, then we're going to go to the board, and then it usually takes me about 30 days to get that thing in a rule book form, and that's what we really want. We got the rule book, we got to get the change document, because that tells us everybody what we changed, why we changed it, and then we got to get all the training material up to date. Referee handbook or officiating handbook all has to be updated to reflect any new rule provisions. But my timeline is to get that published, that new rule book published in a draft form by 1 December. Then that starts a 30-day time clock so that it's published so everybody can see it. That allows players from all over the world to go on the USA Pickleball website, click on the link, download it if they want to, PDF, and they can see what those new rules are and get familiar with them. And then it would become effective 1 January 2022.
I got a question for you on Ernes.
Okay.
Is there any rule about how far past the net you can go when performing an Erne?
No.
Can I carry on into the other opponent's side of the court?
Yes, you can't. Now there will be a limit, obviously, when you would, if you're doing it on purpose. And I'm going to assume there's a referee here. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll have to preface, if there's a referee and I see you continue on down there when I think you could have stopped, then I may call a distraction fault on you.
Okay.
So for not stopping and let the play come out. Now you can try and make your way back, which
Right.
I would assume you would want to, because while you're there, you can't make a play on the ball. Now your partner is playing, 2 against 1, and that's not a good situation. So you're going to want to get back there promptly to get back on the other side of the net.
Do I need to establish myself in my court before I can then perform an Erne again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you cannot hit the ball until you get back across the net. So yes, you have to establish yourself on your side of the net plane.
Okay, that's the question I had. I thought I found myself on my opponent's side. I thought, why don't I just hang out here?
Yeah. Well, you could hang out there, but you're going to put your partner in a
right. I can't compete. I can't put my, if the ball came over towards me, I couldn't block them.
No, you can't. No.
And if they wanted to, and if the ball was hit back for an ATP, I'd have to go establish myself back on my side of the court.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Do you have to wait for the ball to break the plane of the net before hitting it, and when doing an Erne, or really anytime?
Let's make sure we're on the same wavelength here. So if
here's the net, right? Yeah. And I'm on this side, okay. And I go to do an Erne. Does the ball have to be on my side before I hit it?
Yes. You have to make contact on your side of the net.
Okay.
But after you make contact with it, now here's another rule a lot of players don't know. Let's say you go to swing and you miss that thing, and your paddle goes beyond the plane of the net. That's a fault. So you have to make contact on your side of the net. Then your paddle or any part of your body can go past the plane of the net. But
If you miss the ball, then it's a fault.
If your paddle or any part of your body goes past the plane of the net, correct.
Okay. Well, sorry, I'm very ADD, so I would just keep asking all these random questions. But Jason, I'll let you keep some structure here.
No, but I like this because here's a question. If you're doing an Ernie, you make contact on your side, you go to the other side of the net. Can you step in the opponent's kitchen?
No.
Come on, Jason. We knew the answer to that.
No, you cannot. No, that's their court. You can't be on their courts.
Okay.
If I am trying to get a ball out of the air in the kitchen, but I'm outside the kitchen, obviously I can't be standing in the kitchen and hit the ball in the air, but my paddle drops in the kitchen, is that a fault?
Of course.
Yes. If your paddle hits in before you hit the volley or after you hit the volley. Yeah.
Okay, so I thought that was the answer. So the other question is, what if my opponent drops his paddle at any point during the point when it is the ball is on our side of the court? Is that a fault? I'm sorry, not my opponent, my partner.
No, I mean, he didn't hit the volley. He can drop it at any point. Yeah.
Okay. I've had people say your hat falls off, that it's a fault, and I'm like, no, that's not right.
No, if you're correct, if you volley the ball and your hat falls off into the non-volley zone, that's a fault. Yes.
Okay.
But
what if my hat falls off not in the non-volley zone?
And it becomes part of the court. So if your opponent now hits the ball back over to your side and hits your hat on the court, guess what, guys? We're playing on. You play on.
Interesting. So if the ball gets wedged in the hat,
well, yeah,
then pick it up and put it on my head.
Then you dive onto the other side for the play.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. So in just one second, I just want to clarify something because we had a lot of people asking about the drop serve. Drop serve's here to stay for the foreseeable future. Is that right? Or at least going to
everything's got to go to the board. But for those folks who love the drop serve, and there are a lot of people that love it, I think they should be very comfortable.
One last question on the serve. I read the rule book about this, and tell me if I feel like I might have missed something. I feel like I did miss something. Obviously, you have to be established behind the baseline. You have to be on your side of the center line. But I didn't see anything saying that you had to be in between where the sideline would extend to. Do you have to be within the center line and the sideline behind the baseline?
1 foot must be in the confines you just described. The other foot could actually be hanging over the sideline extended or the center line extended.
I called my friend out. I was playing in Mexico yesterday morning, and I called my friend out for having his foot off the court, and he got mad.
I've been called for this, and I didn't know the rule. I
didn't finish. So now let's talk about the sideline extended.
Yeah,
it's an invisible line, right?
Right.
You can't actually see it, so you have to assume where it is. Your foot can actually be on that sideline extended. It just can't be beyond it.
Okay.
But that's the only line in that confines that you can actually be on. But that's only because it's invisible.
So you have to be touching the invisible line.
You can touch the invisible line, but you can't go past the invisible line.
Right. Okay. You got to keep your foot on the invisible line. I'll remember that. This is going to be good. I will use I'm going to quote you on this.
All right.
And then is there any rule to how far beyond the baseline you are? Can you serve it if it goes back 10 feet? Could I be 10 feet back there?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when I serve, I need to maintain contact with the court with 1 foot?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. 1 foot has to be on the court surface within those confines you just defined when you make contact with the ball on the serve.
And then once I make contact, can I leave? Can that foot come up?
Yep.
Okay. That's.
I have a question. Oh wait. So once you make contact, can your foot go forward onto the court?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think there's so many interesting just aspects of the game that are changing based on a few elements. One, the Pro Tours. it being on TV, stuff like rally scoring, the tours wanting to know how long the games are going to last more precisely, the spin serve, and also like the demographic, the older players and the younger players, the rec players and the tournament players. It's, I haven't been involved in a lot of sports at this level, especially as they are, growing at the pace that pickleball is. And I just find it fascinating. And even just being, and I don't want to forget to say this, but being someone that does create rules on a much smaller scale for our community, I really appreciate and empathize with how much you guys not only have on your plate, but also how much sometimes negative just stuff that people say or frustrations get taken out on you guys. And, again, just on a smaller scale, when we have to make a decision, it oftentimes gets criticized. And I can't even imagine having to make decisions for 5 million, coming up on 5 million people. So I appreciate, and I'm not ending the conversation with this, but I want to just make sure I don't forget to say this. I appreciate what you do.
Jared, I think that the kitchen should open up the rules to the entire population. Any rule that anyone wants to, they can submit away. What do you think?
Only if you're the person that has to deal with it all.
Well, I'm very fortunate. I have a couple of really good individuals who work with me. You may know him. He's very well known as a certified rep, Bob Swisshelm. He's the rules submission coordinator. He's actually the one that gets to see everything first before it goes to the IFB. He's the one who collects them, catalogs them, looks for duplications. He's the one who has to go back to that guy in Dayton, Ohio, and say, this is probably not going to fly. It has no chance of passing because it was just adjudicated by this year's rules committee. So I'm not going to pass it on. He's got the tough job. But he's a really, really good guy, a really good rules guy. And then, of course, my other rules committee members. Rob Cassidy's the newest one. Rob. It's surprising how well he knows the rules. And
I didn't know he was on the rules committee. That's cool.
Yeah, he's on the rules committee. He's our newest member, and he made himself very well known this round of discussions. So he's a referee and a player and a really good
I didn't
guy.
know he was a referee either.
Yeah.
And he's an announcer, and he's
he does it all. He does
an
it all.
entertainer.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All right, Mark. Well, I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much for setting us straight on the rules. It was really awesome to hear it, from the horse's mouth. There's so much chatter out there on the courts all over the country. Whenever we go play, there's always something I hear about, that's going to change or this is going to be illegal. So hearing from you, it's great to get some clarity on it. And I know that we still have the board of directors to give their stamp of approval on the 28th of October, and we'll hear more by the end of probably November. And look forward to the document coming out and knowing where things stand.
Exactly. My pleasure, guys. And you all have my personal phone number. You're welcome to call at any time. Just don't give it out to everybody, okay?
We'll post it right here. No problem.
Thanks so much, Mark.
All right, my pleasure, guys.
Mark, thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.